Thank you once again for choosing us this morning. Let's go to this chat now. Yesterday, the National Assembly considered a revised National Gambling Amendment Bill aimed at curbing excessive gambling, especially online. The Trade Minister, Pakistan, recently revealed that around 90 illegal online gambling sites operate from overseas, raising concerns over consumer protection and economic loss. Joining us now is Mzansi's Member of Parliament, Makashule Gana, who was involved in the committee's discussions. A very good morning to you, Makashule. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. The bill already on version D. What happened yesterday, and how does that pave the way forward to, or if it does, even deal with the issues that Mzansi have been calling for?
Thanks very much, Aldrin. I had wished that when I speak to you, there would have been some significant movement insofar as the Gambling Amendment Bill. Unfortunately, yesterday, that item was withdrawn, so it didn't get to be discussed. So it's, so this amendment bill is the one that was initiated in 2018. It's old, it's not responsive to the current crisis that we face as a country. And when I was approached before it was withdrawn, I said that we can't continue trying to revive this particular bill. There has to be a new bill that takes into account the current crisis that we face of gambling in South Africa. So there should not be an attempt to try to bring the mediation report on this 2018 amendment bill, because it hasn't, or it responds to the gambling environment that existed then. Mm-hmm. There has been some significant moves in the last 7 years that we believe that as Mzansi, that amendment bill is not going to resolve the challenges that we have. I will be also writing to the Minister of draw the bill in its entirety and to introduce a fresh bill in Parliament that will have the support of provinces as well. Because this particular bill, Aldrin, had originally passed the National Assembly. Mm-hmm. Where it found difficulty was in the National Council of Provinces, where provincial delegates did not support the passing of the bill, and that's why there was a need for the mediation committee. And unfortunately, yesterday, we also did not get to pass the mediation report, which means now it's back to square one.
Yeah, this bill has faced some extraordinary hurdles as well, and the delays in that as well. Even in the mediators' report, they speak about the undue delay, which was procedurally, they said unusual, procedurally unusual. The process followed is not unconstitutional, and the committee is dealing with the bill in terms of the new joint rule. So there are those technical issues as well that are at play. But currently, as it stands currently, we have minors that are victims of online gambling, although, of course, they are participating and want to participate, but they are targets by these online gamblers.
They are, and part of the reason was that there was a lack of political will and inaction on the part of the department or the part of the previous ministries. It actually took the current minister, Pakistan, over a year to convene the National Gambling Policy Council, which said last week. And we hope that the first thing that it will it needs to deal with, now that it has been revived, it must urgently deal with the issue of gambling advertising, just the level of 24/7 gambling advertising. But secondly, it must go after the illegal gambling sites, because the illegal gambling sites, what happens is that they are not paying any taxes. They are not paying. There's no revenue that the country benefits from them, whilst it continues to cause damage. But we want to see something that does not require a change in legislation. It's just regulations that the minister, together with the National Gambling Policy Council, can start dealing with. And it's the issue of gambling advertising. And that's, for us as Mzansi, it is a low-hanging fruit. And unfortunately, the minister does not share the same kind of concerns as ourselves and other South Africans. I think you ran a poll this morning when, if I heard you correctly, a significant number of people are starting to wake up to the dangers of gambling and gambling advertising, and just how much gambling is taking away from the poor.
Yeah, but currently the National Gambling Board, I guess the issue there
There's
as
no
well
board.
is that
There's
their
no board.
vacancy there as well, is that it actually does have the powers to instruct, as an example, as they've done with Google Africa, to remove those illegal sites. But then the response that the minister gave to your leader in Parliament was that those 10 sites that have been forwarded by the National Gambling Board to Google Africa for them to be removed are yet to be removed.
Yeah, that's the biggest concern. So we have a double problem, Aldrin. We have a problem of illegal gambling sites, but one of the biggest problems are the legal operators that are actually, even in their advertising, also in how almost like promises quick reach, that people can get rich quickly. So the biggest problem, I would say, Aldrin, it's not the illegal gambling sites. The biggest problem are the legal operators who are taking advantage of the gaps in regulations insofar as where they target, because it is. If you walk into, I don't know, you're a person who travel, you will have walked into any of our major airports,
yeah,
and it's just gambling wall to wall. Actually, if you went to King Shaka International Airport, that you could not even see a wall, you could not see concrete, because it was covered inside and outside with gambling advertising, and that's one of the big issues that we believe the National Gambling Policy Council and the minister can take. I know that some of the operators will point fingers at the illegal sites, but the biggest problem right now, to be honest, Aldrin, are the legal operators, because they are the ones who are advertising, they are the ones who are targeting minors, and even we have, as you said, school children who are now addicted to gambling.
Yeah. Is there an issue, do you think, perhaps maybe with legislation insofar? Legislation currently gives the powers to give those operating licenses to the provinces with the provincial gambling boards. But what the digital transformation and the digital transition has proven to us is that the participation of people online is not necessarily confined to a jurisdiction. They can do it while they are in a different province, a geographic distinction. They could do it. I can be in KZN, for instance, playing on a gambling site that has been licensed in the Western Cape.
Yes, it's part of the problem that we have with the current amendment, is that it does not take into account the changing landscape. Like you said, you have an operator that is registered, say, in Mpumalanga, but it derives most of its revenue and causes most of its damage in the Eastern Cape. But the province of the Eastern Cape does not derive any revenue to be able to then fix or maybe rehabilitate the problem gamblers. And it's one of those issues that we want to we have put on the table to say even the revenue share from the gambling operators, we cannot treat digital operators the same way that we treated the old horse racing and casinos, which were physical structures. Like you had to walk into a physical building for you to place a bet, so you could tell how much of that revenue had to be given to the province. But there are some positive signs, at least from some of the provinces. I have been in conversation with the MEC in Gauteng, MEC Lebogang Maile, and he did convene the Gauteng Gambling Board on Monday, where they are starting to look at even their own laws as a province to say that it must respond to the crisis in the province of Gauteng, but also the licensees of that are licensed by the Gauteng Gambling Board, they act responsibly at all times. And it's something that we welcome, and we call on other provincial political heads, the MECs of economic development, to also start moving. Because if we have provinces that are working together with the National Gambling Board, I believe we can be able to attack this particular problem jointly, and we will come out victorious on the other side. But one of the biggest problems has been, and that's why the National Gambling Amendment Bill did not pass, is that provinces felt that the amendment bill was encroaching on their powers, and thus they will not support it. But now that we have a crisis, I do hope that the provincial gambling boards will come together to attack this particular crisis that's in front of us.
Yeah, you speak about Lebogang Maile, the MEC for Economic Development and Finance in Gauteng. We spoke to him a bit earlier on as well, and raised the point around Gauteng as the most populous province in the country is not deriving any revenue from online betting. But currently Gauteng makes around R1 billion from the licensees that it has in the province. And that for me brings about this double whammy. That on one end, you want to have this revenue and generate this revenue, but in the generation of this revenue, there's also the other part, which is the social ill that comes along with the promotion of gambling.
So the revenue is there to deal with the burden, because the biggest department that will be left to deal with gambling addicts and problem gambling will be the Department of Health, because even the World Health Organization has started flagging gambling addiction as one of those concerns that the countries, the Departments of Health needs to start looking at, because it classifies gambling addiction as part of the mental health problem. So you need, because if you look at it, Aldrin, the gambling operators are causing harm in society, and they must be able to pay for the harm that they cause. I even started a conversation with the treasurer to start looking at whether the taxes that the gambling operators are paying are adequate. And we have started to start looking at different models to see how we can make sure that you don't have a situation like it happened with the mining companies, that they will have gone to an area, they mine. Once they've extracted all the minerals, they leave the communities in tatters. I mean, you just have to go to areas like Welcome and Bethlehem and some areas in the country to see the damage that has been caused. So we don't want a situation where the gambling operators cause so much damage in society. Once they're dead, as a country, we have to then carry the burden of rehabilitating the individuals that have been affected by the gambling addiction.
Yeah. Just finally, I want to go back to the point around advertising. We've seen with sporting events in the country, more and more of them are actually being sponsored by by gambling outlets. And then on top of that as well, you also have celebrities that are brought on to endorse these gambling sites as well. What role do you think celebrities in all of this should be playing as part of the so-called influencers on one part? But then the other one is with the advertising on sporting codes, you have sporting, which is defined as a family, a production that would be open to the family, and that would include children, of course, watching that as well. And that advertising takes place during that as well. And some people may argue and say that there you have alcohol as well that is being advertised during sporting codes.
So we want to see from the gambling industry itself to start self-regulation. I mean, for some time, as you said, there wasn't as gambling, alcohol advertising. But the industry itself had to come together and agree in terms of responsible advertising. So you will not, for instance, as Newzroom Afrika during your program this morning, if an alcohol company wanted to advertise, it will not be allowed to advertise. It will not be if you're doing as you were in the other, in your previous life where you were doing an afternoon drive. During that afternoon drive, you wouldn't have an alcohol advertising. And these are the kind of measures that we are calling for. I'm not at the point where I'm calling for a total ban on gambling advertising, but I'm saying that the gambling advertising must, the gambling industry must advertise responsibly. We cannot have in the morning when children are going to school, they're listening to a morning breakfast, and then in their transport, and then there's a gambling advertising. That's irresponsible. And we must call it out as society. And I hope those influencers, those celebrities, must be able to come out and say, no, I accept, I take this gig, but please, let's not do advertising during morning drives and afternoon drives when children are watching. Even on weekends, you will not have an advertising for alcohol at 9 o'clock in the morning. The industry itself has started to move in towards responsible advertising, and that's what we need from the gambling industry. Unfortunately, the people want to extract as much as they can in the hope that there will be a delay in the regulations coming from the ministry. And for the last 10 years, they've been proven correct, that there's been inaction on the part of the department, but also on the part of the ministry. But I have to say that in the next 6 months or so, maximum 6 months, there will be advertising regulations, and I will not stop. In Parliament, I will pester the Minister of Trade and Industry until he gazettes the new regulations around advertising of gambling, and that's a fight that I'm not willing to back down on, and I'll fight till the bitter end.